Athlete Builder back at it. Got a guest today, Zach Rockford. As always, now going forward, we are powered by the AEA Institute. We'll get into that in one of our other episodes. But shout out right off the bat, Mark Jamison from our 113th episode. One of his colleagues, Zach Rockford. Mark referred Zach to us today. We're going to talk about Zach's long journey from high school through college sports and grinding his whole way up. We're going to talk about mindset for athletes. We're going to talk about mindset for coaches. And we're going to get into all things strength and conditioning and making people better. But first, since he's out in Montana, and I'm a huge fan of the Paramount Plus series with Tyler Sheridan, I got to wonder, is he, Zach, are you a Dutton Ranch fan? Are you a Yellowstone fan or not so much?
I like the show. I had never seen it before I moved out here, so I got to experience it before I ever saw it on camera or TV. But I like the show. I've never been to the ranch. I know people are obsessed with it.
My wife and I, we're dorks, so we like to do a lot of national park visits and checking off different ones. And we haven't been anywhere, Wyoming, Montana area. So with Yellowstone and Tetons and a few others, just looks awesome, right? So right off the bat, it's got to be a whole different, you came from Illinois, now you're in Montana. How about that change, that culture shock? Talk about just living out there and how life is different.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of our close friends that we have now are from the Midwest, from Iowa, Illinois, Indiana. And it's just funny how you almost have transplants that moved out. But what I always say is the culture shock's there. But being a good person is being a good person, right? Hello, thank you, hold the door, yes, no. Those things shouldn't change based off your geographical location, and I don't feel like they have here. I'm not going to change, and so I also want to make sure that, the people that are from here that I've gotten to know, born and raised in some of these small towns or bigger towns in Montana, that I treat this place like they have wanted to be kept for the entirety of their life, and I think that's just due respect to the location you're at and the people that are there. Everyone wants to move to Montana because of how awesome it is, but that's the reason why I don't want to change it. There's aspects of it, right, that would be nice, but for the most part, I am 98% in with how things are done, and I'm okay with that. But that was a big reason why we moved here is, the people we met, when we vacationed out here, and then ultimately it felt like a family away, especially here at the university and the community around.
What city are you guys located?
Missoula, but I actually live in Lolo, which is just a little bit south.
Missoula, and it's University of Montana, not Montana State. How close are you to the Rockies, the mountains?
Well, it depends kind of how you look at it, but I'm pretty much in it.
You're pretty much in it.
So this western hemisphere, or the western part of the state, is pretty much all in it, where the eastern part of the state is kind of like plains, rolling hills, similar like the Dakotas. So that they call them like coulee styles, so not much as mountains as much as like bluffs and high-end rises.
Gotcha. So I know my wife will probably listen to this episode, and her whole goal is the Rocky Mountains. And when she wants a vacation, it's the Rockies. It's not necessarily to go skiing, because she doesn't even do that. It's just being out in the mountains. She feels closer to God, and the hiking, and she feels more peace. She introduced that to me. That was something I was not well versed in at all, and I'm way better for it. So man, I'm pretty jealous, and I'm sure I want to talk to you more offline. So Zach, took the long route. I want to say I saw you played the main sports growing up. And then I think you went the D3 route for football and a little bit of baseball, or is that D2? I wasn't sure.
It's NAIA technically.
Gotcha.
I don't know if they've changed or what, but it's NAIA.
But then it's the intern, the graduate assistant, getting the master's, grind, work well here, then head over to Southern Illinois at Edwardsville with Mark, do well there, and you're like, hey, let's go do well somewhere else with better geography. So truly just grinding his way out. What was your welcome to college sports moment in football?
Like personally for me when I was playing, opening kickoff return.
Okay.
That's always what someone says the first game. No, honestly, mine was, when we played at the time, there's probably 10 of us that arrived early on the freshman squad. Now, within that team, at the time there was a JV and a varsity, at Ambrose. But I was fortunate enough to come in early, being a skill guy and stuff like that. And so I would say I was part of the upper tier of the guys. So it was like 12 to 15 of us came early before all the other freshmen did. And so, we're at camp for 14 days before everyone else arrives. And we're on the scout team. It was like a HB zone. At the time I played tailback only. I didn't play receiver at all at the time. And we had a starting middle linebacker that was just a house. And I remember running up the middle and trying to shake him a little bit, and he put a helmet or a shoulder pad on my thigh. And I was just like, wow, these boys hit a little harder than, back in high school. And at the time, like, you didn't think anything of it. And I had a full-on contusion in that thigh for, about 6 days, where, I missed 2 days of practice before kind of really get back to running on the rehab side with our athletic training staff. And it was interesting to say the least. I was like, I haven't had this besides, taking a helmet to like right where that thigh gap is.
Sure.
On that meaty part of that quad, and that'll put you down too. But it was just straight on, like it wasn't even to the side at all. So needless to say, I upgraded my thigh pads.
In high school, I tell people that when you go to college, even if you're at a bad school, those people are still all state somewhere, right? If you're at a school that's not winning a thing, you're full of all state people. And so once you get there, it's hard. It's hard. If you haven't struggled through that piece and everything's come to you and you can't suffer for long, then you don't last very long. So there's an eye-opening experience with the speed, the strength, the pain, right? And it comes early. Now, you also said you played baseball for a year. Any similar, holy cow, this is college baseball, this is different than the high school?
Not really. To be honest, like our football program in high school was very good. We had walkthroughs in the morning, we did film in the morning. So the college transition really wasn't that hard for me, but I also didn't play two sports at the same time in high school, if that makes sense, where I was like doing double workouts every day. And so, for baseball, the idea was, to go play. I always said, and we can get into this later, but, baseball is my first love, but football paid the bills. And it's kind of like my whole career is everything that happened in football kind of led that way to help me. But baseball is the one thing that, for me, I really loved. But in high school, kind of got the yips. Also kind of threw my shoulder out to some degree, where just like no touch on the ball, couldn't have anything behind it. And so you had transition to like an outfield position. And when I got to college, you kind of just had to be like, hey, you're going to walk on, and you're going to make most of this. But I used to have 9 workouts Monday through Friday between football and baseball. So it's to the point, some weeks we'd have 11. So essentially I do a double with either football or baseball every day, and then I do a single with the other. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday for baseball, we had doubles. And then I had my football lift. So it's 3 Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that's those right there. And then you would have like a Tuesday or Thursday double with football, and then you'd still have like an off day somewhere in between. So it got to the point where it just could not like handle the amount of volume required, to do that. And so I got lucky. I was academically eligible, like some of the other guys weren't. I paid attention. I listened. I out hustled everyone. And so I kind of earned a spot. And then it might have just got to the point where I just wasn't good enough. Or it was the fact that I was splitting time between the two sports. I couldn't say, but either way, I was given an opportunity, and I got to experience that. But how guys play two sports in college is downright incredible. Just the amount of physical, intensive work that it required. Football offseason is hard enough, but adding on baseball on top of that, and they're two different sports, right? They don't really coexist. I think a lot of times, like basketball and football can kind of coexist a little bit.
Change the direction, right?
Yeah, and there's just the mobility to have to swing and hit is not favorable going in and having to put size on your upper body, like you want to do in football for some robustness. So there's just some different complexities to each that, just don't tend to go well with each other. But yeah, so I walked on. It was good. I would do it again, just to experience it. But at the end of the day, like, I just got to the point where my body couldn't handle it. I think it was like 6 weeks. I had bronchitis. Like, I was sick like every month. Just body could not respond positively to all that. I think I ended up losing like 10 pounds in college, which being 5'5" at tailback, you don't really stand a chance to lose any weight. So
that's why there's only one Bo Jackson, only one Deion Sanders that were with any good at both sports. Like, it's so rare to play at the pro level. 7% play college, 2% play D1, and you just whittle it down from there to play at the pro level. So then you got basically two people playing down from there. So, they're just complete smallest ends of the bell curve.
Well, then I
So
also think the dedication required too. Like I just don't think people are willing to like dedicate. Like you got to sacrifice something. And we
everything,
say it to the kids all the time. It's like there's three things in college. It's a three-legged stool. If you're playing sports, there's academics, athletics, and then your social life.
pick two.
And you're gonna have to kick one because you can't sit down. Like this is not gonna work. You're not gonna have enough time. And so for me, that social life is just, you have good housemates, good teammates, and outside that, you do what you want when you can. And outside that, I'm focused. I'm focused
Right.
on trying to be the best I can. So
Sure. So you played running back. Would you rather win a national title as a football player or as the coach of the team? You can only pick one though.
if you were to say one or the other, I'd probably say at this point in my career, probably coach. I was pretty successful, as an athlete, winning state titles and things like that and conference championships. But as a coaching standpoint, right, that's kind of like one of the elusive pieces that I have yet to experience. Also, I'm an N of one if I win it, but I am one of many that I get to lead that way. So there's something to be said about being a leader and not being as selfish. I think doing it myself would kind of be the selfish route, where being a leader would be the unselfish way. But I think there's always a little bit of ego that's involved in there and like wanting to be successful and things like that. That's a tough question. I'm gonna have to ponder that one later and just check myself maybe.
Right. Um, you guys, your football team had a solid year, right? Was it semifinals this year?
Yeah, semifinals.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, you guys did really good.
How many people go to the school?
It's hovers around 14,000 from what I remember. Um, so it's not a very large school by any means. Um, and so it's incredible when people talk about like how loud the stadium is and stuff like that with not as many fans as we have. But it's set up that way. The stadium's enclosed. There's no track. You're pretty close to the sidelines. So the crowd can really influence a game, which is pretty cool.
It's 2000, and I go on my honeymoon, and it's down to Cancun, and we go to these Mayan ruins. It's out. Everything's open, right? There's no dome, and it's ruins. There's not much. So it's the sport plays on something like a soccer or football field in a rectangle, and it's a bit of soccer and basketball. So the teams are kicking the ball back and forth. That's real small, like the size of a little bit bigger than a softball, but it's kind of hard, right? I don't know if it's a big rock or what, because it's from way back in the day, thousands of years ago. And the idea is that there is if you're looking at a football field, along the 50-yard line, there's a pole that goes up or a stick that goes up or a tree, and there's like a little hoop. And your team's goal is to kick that ball up into this little hoop, right? No hands. And so games could last, days. And if you can live a good life and you die well, you go to their version of the afterlife, they would say. And one of the ways to quickly expedite that is to be the lone person that kicks the ball up into the hoop, right? And so you do that, and everyone's so happy for your team that won, and for this person who was clearly touched by a superpower because they had to be good enough to do that. So then ceremonially, right after the game, he's beheaded as his, hey, congratulations, you can't, it's all down from here. Now, that's not the point of the story, because I'm not trying to get athletes to have their heads cut off. The point, though, if you stand in the middle of the field and you clap once, you hear two. And if you go to the 25-yard line, you clap once, you hear four. And then the end zone, and you clap once and it's 16, right? And then it's like 32 after that. So with the acoustics, however they knew this way back when, it makes sense that even in a smaller arena, like you said, at your place, your stadium, if the architects know what they're doing, the acoustics could be set up so not many people can sure make the place super, super loud, which makes it fun. Now, being out there in Montana, I'm from Cleveland, so I like cold. It's windy in Indiana. You know what Illinois is like, but I got to believe they all got to have domes out there because the cold just got to be brutal.
No, I mean, for the most part, we have an indoor that practice and stuff like that just to get out some of the elements when we need to, but outdoors for everything, FCS football. So it's interesting, when you're cheering and stuff like that, the guys talk about that on the sidelines. Like, it's not that cold during the game when you're on the sideline. It's just when you're actually on the field, you're hitting pads and stuff like that. But even in the stands, like, you're pretty close to everyone. The stadium gets pretty packed in, which is nice. And you just wear a nice puffy.
Right. Got to.
They sell hot chocolate at this over at the concession stand too. You can go grab that.
Plus, you got to grow that beard out. Make sure that any of the hair that migrated from up north, and I'm not making fun because I have almost no hair in my head either. But you got to grow that beard out to handle that wind.
I call it the reverse fade. I used to fade it this way. Now I just fade it this way.
Attaboy. So, there's that welcome to college football. There's the welcome to baseball or in the minor leagues. But you go the GA route, the intern route. And there's got to be some moments where like, really, I'm picking up someone's underwear over here. This is my job. I'm cleaning. One of the guys we had on, he was a strength coach, Jeremy Hartman, awesome, super smart. He worked for the Cleveland Browns, and being a Browns fan, I was really happy for him, but also sad because the Browns always suck. However, his first job as a legit strength coach that coached people at the high level, West Side Barbell level, like national champions, etc. His first job with the Browns was cleaning off the benches and the mirrors in the room, making sure they're really nice and clean. And like, here's a guy super capable, reduced to a 14-year-old who needs extra, newspaper money. So it's a grind. So talk about, sticking to it, having to be humble and just doing crappy work sometimes to progress through anything, whether it's making the team, doing well on the team, or doing well professionally.
Yeah, and I think that's its own. Nowadays, we try to make it easier for people, so that way you don't have to endure that just because we didn't know if it was necessary. But at the end of the day, I think some of those tasks, though, like you've seen Karate Kid, right? Wax on, wax off.
Right.
It's like the lessons learned sometimes aren't directly seen until later on down the road. And something my grandpa always used to say is only the mailman walks, and you can always work hard, which are very controllable things. And those have kind of stuck with me, but. My graduate assistantship, Darren Lavatt at UIW took me under his wing. He played for my head football coach in high school. So this is kind of why I was saying, football paid the bills. Coach Leonard, one of the leading high school coaches in the nation in terms of wins, and one of the top in Illinois, gave me the nod of approval. It was like, this is the right guy if you want someone that works hard. And that's what I had to do, is I had to work really hard as a graduate assistant. 60 to 80 hours a week sometimes, based on what you're doing, and you make $12,000 a year or whatever it was. Now, don't get me wrong, I had support. I was able to follow my dream, and that was something my family allowed me to do. And I know that's not the easiest thing for everyone to get that. 2014 is a little different in terms of price point than it is nowadays too, and to get somewhere to live. But that was just something that was really important. So I remember my first week, I just was at TCU for 10 weeks, and I coached rotations on lifts, since it had never been talked back to at all my whole time at TCU. My first day, we're in camp. I literally left TCU that Sunday at 10 or 12 in the midday, and we had football lift at 5 p.m. in San Antonio. And it's about a 4.5 hour drive. So from Fort Worth to San Antonio, and I show up, Coach Lavatt's like, hey, you're coaching rack, 7 and 8 or whatever it was, 9 and 10. And this kid just said, yeah, I'm not doing that weight today. And I was just like, cool. It was like one of our top tight ends, big kid. And I was just like, whatever, I'll just talk to coach afterwards. You don't have to, I don't care. At the time I'm pretty intimidated though, this kid's probably 220 pounds. I'm a buck 70. And it was just one of those things okay, I'm not respected at all. So how are we going to gain that? How are we going to earn that? Fast forward, in that first week of camp, gets done, and then we get to school, and it's like, hey, Rockford, you got to, clean the weight room on Friday night before the weekend. And the field house was next to the football field. And so we'd pull all those beads and turf into the weight room, and sweep vacuum mop, 2,500 square feet every Friday. And you just get to the point you're like, I'm so exhausted. I didn't know anything else. I'm just going to keep working. We're going to keep working. And that was pretty one of my big moments of I'm not respected at all. I'm the lowest man on the totem pole. And I also have to do, the grunt work. And I see it differently now that I'm a director and I do understand why I did what I did and had to do it. But some of the hours were pretty high, but I gained so many valuable insights and reliance on myself that put in a corner, I can bet on myself every time.
Sure.
And I don't know how many people can actually do that. I really
Sure.
don't. Like that's the lessons I learned in those 2 years of I can bet on myself to get the job done and do a fairly good job, irregardless of what the circumstances are.
So there's a number of things there. And I love that. And I'm not trying to say like I'm some hard ass or the old school approach is the way to go. Here's why I love that. Because when you have that level of resilience, like I've had enough things go really badly for me that when COVID hit and they said, "Hey Jim, you worried about shutting down your gym?" I'm like, "No, I had my car repossessed my first year. Like this is just the next thing, right?" So after a while, you get kicked in the face enough. Here comes a boot. One, you learn to move your face, but two, you're not really worried. We had a PhD lady on. She's outstanding, Dr. Taryn, and she just said, just change your own question to, from why is this happening to me? Why am I having to clean this shit every night? To why is this happening for me, right? So then you start looking at, now you're back in charge. Why is this happening for me? What can I get out of this? You can listen to a podcast. You can listen to something funny. You can listen to Bussin' with the Boys and have fun while you're doing it. Or you can listen to something educational, right? But why is this happening for me? And so being 51, or, you're not quite my age, but being older, you can see the wisdom and the maturity there. Now, if you're an 18 to 22-year-old, if I'm 18 to 22-year-old Jim, I'm not nearly as mature. And I would argue that today's 18 to 22-year-old is probably a little bit less. So for them to be able to sit there and on their own say, hey, why is this happening for me? It's pretty unlikely. If I can go to the kid and say, why is this happening for you? I said, well, from my standpoint as the director, if I see you doing crap really, really well, my confidence in you goes up. So confidence comes from reps. My confidence as the director in you is now going up. That can give you something more challenging, and you're just going to keep working at it because I see that thread in your character. Two, you could say, hey, man, I could take this away from you and make it easier. But at some point, there's going to be a death in your family or a death in a teammate, or you're going to get fired or laid off, or something shitty's really going to happen. And you're not going to have someone there to be like, well, here's why we're doing this. This is why this is happening for you. You got to be able to just handle it and move forward. I was talking to my wife. We're talking about the cold showers I take, and you want to be like 2 to 3 minutes. And there's mental and physical benefits. I can get into that, but honestly, I just want to keep doing it every day. One, because I don't want to break the streak, and two, I just know that sometimes there's painful things that are coming, and I want to be conditioned to just handle it quickly. Nothing more than that. I want us to be in the habit of just handling problems quickly and just moving forward. So having to clean on Friday night, what a gift, because now you can utilize that.
Yeah, and we make it sound all bad, but it's just like the other guys would help too. Like some of the other assistant strength coaches at the time, I too.
Yeah.
Eric Murphy and Adam DeFelice were there as well, and they would help every once in a while, just like, hey, like I know that you're gonna have this, and I want to make sure that we get you a little bit of assistance. Bryant Porter was one of our other strength coaches as well, and they'd be like, hey, you need help? I'm like, yeah, I mean, cut it down in half of the time. We can go do whatever you want to do on Friday night in San Antonio, So yeah, it's just interesting, Arizona, it happened again for the first 2 weeks. We couldn't work out. I had to clean plates. I was like, I used to get paid for this, man. Now I'm a free intern, and it's just interesting. You learn to just deal with the suck. And here's the other thing too, and we catch this. I'm into hunting now, and we went hunting this last archery for elk, and you're climbing 2,000 feet with a 30-pound or 20-pound pack, and it's on a 26% grade, and you're just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, right.
Like, what am I doing here? And then you're like, and then I say to myself, you asked for this. You wanted to do this. So guess what, Buttercup? Suck it up a little bit. And there's two things that I usually try to like just reframe, and when bad stuff happens, just say good.
No, the
good.
Jocko approach. Yeah, I like the Jocko approach, right?
That's like one of the best things that I got from him. Listen to some of him talk on things. And then the other thing is like, this too shall pass. So control what you control, which is your attitude and your effort, and outside that, just keep focused on what's important, and the idea with the hunting thing is get to the top of the mountain, and then you turn around and you're like, wow, that's beautiful. You get to see some scenery. So that helps too. But Yeah, there's always some good that can come in the bad, and sometimes it takes a while for you to see it. And I'm glad I went through what I went through in the hardship because I get to benefit from it now. But everyone along the way has helped me in some ways.
You can you probably follow Cameron Haynes then as well. Big guy on bow hunting or just hunting in general. And then I get the 30-pound pack sucks until you got a quarter an elk. And now you're taking hundreds of pounds of meat down. It's not like you're in a four-wheeler able to haul it. So that 30-pound pack, that's kind of a joke compared to, or a moose, 900 pounds, right?
It's
right.
Yeah. You talk about some like marathons worth of distance. Some of these guys travel, and so it's interesting perspective, and so that's something that I've come to enjoy in the moment. I call it type 2 fun. It's never fun in the moment. It's always fun on the end. Whereas like video games are type 1, you know what I mean? Like it's fun while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and once again, it's like this is what you asked for. You didn't ask for it to be easy. You didn't want it to be. If you want it to be easy, you'd go shoot it off the road, throw it in the back of your truck, and go home. And so, yeah, I think that's the important thing that you have to understand is you asked for it. Coach Williams. Do you watch Last Dance? Have you ever watched it?
Yeah. Several times.
It's my favorite. I watch it probably once a year. It's actually coming to the time of the year where I'll watch it again, sometime in February, March. Jordan said, I want to be the best player in the country. And Coach Williams goes, you have to work a lot harder than you did in high school. And his response was, I worked hard in high school. And he goes, you said you want to be the best player in the country, not the best high school player. So it's just funny. It's just like when you ask for certain things, you got to understand what the expectations are. And also you have to understand that your effort needs to be consistent or it needs to go up and you be maybe a little more disciplined. But come back to what you wanted, what you asked for is what you're going to get.
That's right. Also when you have some shitty jobs, like I mowed yards and did a lot of grass work at this local college in high school, my first year in college. And you're outside in the heat. And to push a mower for 7 hours, with breaks, like it's not fun. But the guys I remember working with, I don't think I ever laughed as much in my life than when you guys are with the right group of guys just doing work. So you could take a really terrible thing and have a great time doing it. There's a piece I want to get into specifically. And I've been noticing it with myself and as well as other coaches in high school, but definitely high school and college coaches. And consistently when I bring on people to talk about building athletes mentally and physically, we talk about effort, discipline, first one to leave, last one, or first one to show up, last one to leave, knowing the playbook backwards and forwards, doing all the things. And then I see it all, not always, but often when coaches say that, they're out of one side of their mouth, out of the other side of their mouth, all they care about is the guy that is the fastest or the most powerful. So they're going to say, do all these things, but the playing time's going to go to this guy over here who does some things well, whether it's natural or not. And typically it's physical, right? And it could be in any sport, it could be any color, it could be any gender, right? This person's faster, they're going to be a better athlete. This person's not as fast, but does everything else well. I'm not going to play them. And so we come on here, and I got the question is it all just bullshit, right? Hey man, do all these things. But if you're not the fastest or most powerful, it's just something for us to say. That's a hard question, right? And it's an hour-long answer probably. So just overall thoughts.
Yeah, you alluded to a little bit of like what percent of kids actually make it to college? What percent of kids actually make it through to the next levels, even less?
Yeah.
I mean,
or even play or start.
Yeah, like I wasn't a starter in college. I was kind of a role player, but I played every position. But you know who asked my opinion first thing off the field? Our starting running back. Because he knew I was there for him. Like, I wanted our team to win. I wanted to play. Don't get me wrong. I was mad if I wasn't playing. But what did I do to not earn that spot, right? Was I given opportunity and just I pissed it down my leg? So I've really started to reframe this a little bit when we think about this. I want to win championships, 100%. Let's not get it twisted. We want to win games. But when we played sports, it was said, sports are a vehicle for you to learn life lessons and how to rely on yourself, build your confidence, self-resiliency, and to give you an outlet of something you truly, really love. Because if you truly, really love something, you can endure. You can put up with it. When you hate cleaning toilets, man, you reframe it as like, I'm making $40 an hour to clean crap off a toilet. All right, I can do that. So I look at it from a standpoint of like, personal progression within athletes, but also like what are you actually learning within this in order to gain something on the back end? And we have kids come to my office all the time. It's like I can't, like I think I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, you have to decide that though. It's got to be in your heart. You have to make that decision. Don't let anyone make that decision for you, because as long as you have control of your decisions, you'll be okay with it. Now you might regret the fact that you gave it up, and maybe you should have given it. But here's the thing: if you've been feeling like this for the last year and it's just not for you anymore, that's fine. Then hang it up, and that's okay. What did you learn though? What did you learn in the vehicle of sport that you can take with you to the next thing in your life? And that's where I think we really start to get like really messed up. I think they're saying like youth sports is like a $40 billion like thing now. And most kids that start early quit by the age of 13 or 14. I mean, I wasn't even playing competitive sports till I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
I just played everything, but like we weren't playing travel ball and all that stuff then.
There are private equity companies that invest in startup businesses to help fund them to grow and then hopefully go public some days. And there are private equity companies investing in travel corporations.
It's gross. It's absolutely gross. You're monetizing young kids, and these families think that these kids have a chance because you're playing on this AAU team and you pay $7K a year or $6K a year. Go put that on a 529 for your kids so that way they can go pay for college.
I'll go a step further.
And we can get on this soapbox all we want, but yeah, I think we're missing the point. But let's not get it twisted. We're here to win games. People get fired for not winning. At the end of the day, people get paid to win. Sports are meant to win, but there's also lessons to be learned. And I think that's like the whole book isn't called winning. Most part of that book is called winning, and there's subcomponents of things you can learn. And we can use sports as a vehicle for development, I think. And that's how it was always taught to me, and I keep coming back to that because of the situation. It's like this kid tries so hard, but they can't figure it out. They can't play. They're not the best one on the field. They show up on time every day. They do the things we ask. Those are the things I think that they're going to start to, see later on. And I hope 10 years down the road of every athlete that I've ever had sees that what I asked them to do was for a purpose, and it might not have been in the moment, but it was something down the road.
I had a kid. He played college football, graduated, takes a job. He's good at math, so he's an analyst doing financial analysis, and he's in week 1, and he has to do this. A report on Thursday. He starts on Monday. And originally he was told, hey, the following Monday is when the report's due. Then the boss is like, well, we kind of would like to have it Friday. And then by Tuesday night, he's like, hey, I'll need that Thursday morning. And so I was talking to him about that. And I go, so what's going on? He goes, well, just like football, things aren't fair. And so it's how do I react? I said, so what's that mean? He says, well, they say to show up by 9 and work 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. Those are our normal office hours. I go, so what do you do? He goes, I'll probably be there about 6:15, 6:30 because now, to win, my sweatshirt says win the day. For me to get a win, for us to win on a Friday night football game or Saturday in college, for me to get a win on this Thursday morning presentation, I need to be here at this point to get all this volume done so I can put it together for then. So that's just what it takes. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm like, you're not mad or pissed, right? He goes, it just is. Like, it just is. So I'm not anything. I'm not mad or happy or excited. I'm like, it's just what's next. And I'm like, oh, you got it. So those people that go to school, they'll learn the lessons one way or the other. They might not learn them then, but they might see them again 5 or 10 years down the road. And then they might be like, oh, shoot. Okay. Got it. Makes sense now. Mark Twain was talking, I can't remember how the quote goes, but at 14, I knew my dad was so stupid. I couldn't believe by the time I was 21 how much he had learned. And I completely butchered it, but essentially, it's the dad didn't get any smarter. The kid matured enough to realize what his dad was saying, right? You pointed out you got to outwork and hustle people. So when I used to go to like mindset events, Tony Robbins, I like Eric Thomas, Inky Johnson. They get you all pumped up, and so I'm always left with the now what question of what do I do? So for me, the title of most of my speeches is now what. So yeah, I'm gonna give you an inspirational story. I'm gonna try to like, hey man, this is pretty cool. Check this out. Tomorrow morning when you wake up at 5:30 or 6 or 6:30, like now what? And I always want to quantify things because you improve what you measure. I'm a big dork, right? So you tell me outwork or out hustle. What does that mean? Give me a metric. What's the Zach Rockford metric for that?
I'll give you a story.
Okay.
So in high school, I was supposed to be the starting shortstop. from freshman, sophomore year. I decided not to play varsity as a sophomore and play JV because we had an all-conference shortstop and second baseman. So I was just going to play in a role spot, right? Not really guaranteed to get a lot of playing time. So I played JV, and I always traveled to varsity when I could to get the experience. Great, right? Come junior year, I got the yips at sophomore year, could not throw the ball to first base. Transition to second base, couldn't, I don't know what happened. So I get put in the outfield. Here we go. So I'm going to hit. I'm going to get on base. I'm going to hustle. I wasn't supposed to be the starting outfielder that year. Every day, though, I busted my buzz. I hustled to and from my position every time. Didn't walk. I paid attention. I didn't get told the same thing twice. 3 days before the starting game, coach made an example of me as a reason why and what he wanted the team to be kind of known for, which is this hey, we need to always be kind of in this hustle mode, this hard work mode. And I became the starting outfielder. I never looked back then from that. And the whole reason why I wasn't the starter is because there was someone that earned the spot the year before ahead of me who was older. Why I hustled and I worked him. Our talent was probably the same. And that's what some people don't understand is you're so close to being the starter if you get out of your own way, if you do the right things, right? And sometimes people don't know what that is. And no one has to teach you how to hustle. No one has to teach you how to work hard. And if we do, maybe that's something you need to look in the mirror a little bit on because I don't control those two things. You do. And so the metric for me, there isn't one. It is when you look yourself in the mirror at night, do you think you gave it 100%? Only you know. And I say that to my teams all the time. We're gonna hit, our times on our repeat 150s or whatever for our conditioning test. And guess what? If my timer doesn't work or we're on a bad surface and we decide to, nix the test because we're not doing it on hardwood and you gave up, that 5 extra seconds, you did. You shouldn't feel good about that. You should know that you quit. I can't control that though, right? I can only set the environment and the atmosphere for you to succeed. And you have to be able to lean on yourself. But that's where that confidence comes into play, I think, is when you do it enough times the right way. You got so much confidence in yourself to go out there and do it. You don't have to rely on anyone else. And that's one thing that, from the hustle to work hard, I don't know if there's a metric. I really don't. I think it's more of a mindset.
Okay. I like both. People, I remember the Supreme Court judge was asked, what is pornography? I don't know, but I know it when I see it, right? If you read Urban Meyer's book, Above the Line, he would say everything you do plus 2. So if you're running a sprint and you're one of his guys, you would want to run 2 more or 2 more yards, right? Or do 2 more reps. I like to quantify things as well and say, hey, if you can't figure it out and practice starts at 6, you got to be there at 5:45. Don't be rolling in at 1 or 2 minutes till with your shoes untied, right? If it ends at 7, you stay until 7:15 or 7:30, right? You can start doing things like that. So, hey, I've worked an extra 15 minutes today. And then I would ask the question a week or 2 later, now what? So you work these extra 15 minutes, 5 practices a week, so 2 weeks, 10 practices, 15 minutes, 150 minutes. Are you where you want to be? So you did this extra work. You're here. You're hoping to be at this level, but you're here. You did extra work, which got you to here, which is good. But you wanted to be here, which means, well, now what? I probably need to do a little bit more in certain area to move myself up. So once you're doing the extra whatever, ask yourself now what and where are you? Now you can decide, do I need to add even more or make an adjustment, or am I good? Am I good, right? So when Jordan was he nervous in the last dance about taking those shots? He was never nervous because he had so many reps. He earned the confidence to take the shot. Didn't always miss, right? Missed plenty of times, lost plenty of games at the end, but wasn't lacking the confidence because all the reps were there. So having our meeting today, even our recording today, with limited amount of prep time. How long have you been talking strength and conditioning? This is 125 episodes for me, right? So if we just had 2 minutes to read each other's bio, you and I can be able to sit here for a couple hours and have a fun conversation because you put in all the other work. So you walk around feeling pretty relaxed.
Yeah, and I think that's just being confident in yourself too, and what you stand for and speak for. And yeah, I like what you're saying is how do you put that extra work in, And then I think back to our job, as coaches is to set the kids up for success so that everything they are doing will put them in position. Now, there are some things they can do, right? A little bit extra. Here's where I'd focus your time. If you really need to think you need to go do more bench press to increase your max or need to do a squat more, maybe you should put your energy into other things, right? And that's where I think coaching needs to really evolve, especially on the youth side. You see some of the stuff, you're like, why? What are you doing? What are we telling kids to do? Why are we telling them to do that anyways? And it's not really moving the needle for them unless it is to teach them hard work. to show up. But don't make things that are like not dangerous, but like could set them up for like bad success later. Like that's the thing I don't understand.
So I just take a basic tool. I learned at Purdue in the business school, a SWOT analysis. That's nothing fancy. That is nothing fancy. That's not a fancy tool. But if I apply that, and this is, I guess self-proclaiming here. We asked me about that earlier. If I'm talking about the athlete builder model, and I have to ask you, SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for your mindset. Maybe you're driven. Maybe you're working hard. Maybe you have those pieces. But then there's the knowledge of the sport. Maybe you can't dribble with your left hand. There's a knowledge piece there. You're limited there. I'm gonna spend less time working on being tough and more time on learning how to dribble with my left. Maybe you're good at being tough and you have all the components, but maybe what comes out of your mouth isn't so good and you're a bad teammate. And that's what's holding you back. Right? Maybe you're just all about yourself. And Jordan, he was told in that show, he started winning when he incorporated his teammates more in the first half and 3/4 of the game. So once he was a better teammate there, then the team started winning. Well, maybe it's your new, but even before that, on the physical side, Jordan was getting beat because he couldn't handle the physicality of the Pistons because his training wasn't there. So again comes Tim Grover, add some strength training because that's the limiting factor. Well, maybe you're driven, maybe you're the knowledge of your sport, maybe you're a good teammate and you have your strength component with Tim Grover, but you don't have your nutrition and your recovery down. Well, he hires a staff at home to be in charge of his meals, cleaning his house, making sure every car that you drives is washed. Like all those other things are taken care of. So you're right. And where the absolute criminality of youth sports manifests is where they focus on the one component, the skill component. Play this 10, 11 months a year, total bullshit for 8, 10, 12-year-old and up. So they're so out of whack relative to their physicality component, their strength component, where ACL tears are climbing at an exponential rate for the last decade. So to your point about the coaching, where they come in, just take that SWOT analysis to those 6 areas. You have an exhaustive approach to that kid. You cannot not find the limiting factor and address it.
Yeah, we always, I frame this to coaches. I think understanding, coaching concepts and coaching philosophies is the best way for me to impact like a team success. But you break it back, I break it into like skills, drills, and games to understand like the full concept of like how we can like, what are we going to focus our time on, right? And so a lot of times we'll get sport coaches that give you like this game scenario approach of like, this kid's just not good here. And then I work it back and say, well, can they even do the skill without pressure? And they're like, And I'm like, well, why are you worried about them performing in the game if they can't even shoot free throws? So like it's interesting, right? And that's where you get like constraints-led approach, CLAs, which is a pretty cool way to like influence strategies for drills. But sometimes those skills for us, strength, speed, and power, they're not conditioned enough. They're not big enough. Those are things, though, from a skill standpoint, we can influence. We know how to do that. I can't influence the drill selection. I can't influence the game, but I can influence the skill. If you're not good at going into contact and then finishing at the rim, there's probably some size that goes into that. There's probably also some strength that goes into that. And then there's also, you have to probably practice that skill. So yeah, I can help you there a little bit. But unless you're actually working through contact at practice to finish at the rim, for basketball, like, it doesn't matter. And so I always look at like, what can I actually control? And then I help people reframe it to the point like, maybe this is simpler than we think it is, or maybe it's just a mindset shift of like, you need to focus on how to play the game versus what part of the game are we missing, what part of the game we need to work on, how we're thinking about it more so versus, like, oh, we're just not good at this. It's like, well, how can we influence that? Putting ownership back on other people is really powerful for confidence, right? Like, you're put in this position, you're paid a lot of money to make the right decision. Like, okay, let's make the right decision. I'll be your soundboard. But you got to call each other on their bullshit too. We're focused on things we can't control. So stop that. Let's go control what you can.
If your whole team can't be physical in the paint, then you're not going to be winning any of the rebound deals, right? So you better, maybe you're fast breaking everybody because you're going to try to outrun everybody, like the Ramble and Wreck from Georgia Tech or Loyola Marymount or my favorite UNLV from back in the day. So now you say, hey, we're just not good in the paint. Well, you can also say, how come our strength coach can't get us good in the paint from a physicality standpoint, but the strength coach does? Then maybe we're not doing the drills. So there is a root cause analysis assessment that needs to be done all the time everywhere. And when people don't do that with themselves, like I'm absolutely guilty of, then I get beat. And you'll hear Alex Hormozy say, which I love, whatever you're avoiding is what's holding you back.
Yep.
Yep.
That's your real hard. Everyone talks about choosing your hard, but people are only choosing their hard, which is actually not the hard thing they should be doing.
Sure. Like I would love when I'm doing conditioning at the gym where it's just sleds and heavy kettlebell swings and carries. But you're not going to want to see Jim at 51 years old, 6'2" and a half, 250 pounds, doing a bunch of up downs or burpees. Like you're not going to want to, right? Right?
I want
But
to.
if
Can I see
but
that? I want. Can you give me 50?
I can give you 50. I'll be crawling through them, but I can do 50, right? I'm
Yeah.
not doing them like in a minute like everybody else, but
Yeah.
or 3 minutes. However, I can tell you this: if I just went through like a set of 10 or 20 burpees in a warm up, I can tell you my hips would open up a little bit better because I know I'm tight there. So whether it's a cardio component or not, and I like to swim for a lot of my conditioning, but I can tell you that if I would do that more, my mobility would improve in my hips a little bit. I felt it when I was doing them. So you avoid doing those things, and you talk about being tough, but hey, you're not tough with yourself. So I can just point the finger back at me. That's super easy. When you're training, you're getting after it. And how old are you, Zach?
I'll be 34 at the end of January.
34. Wow, so old. And you play college sports, and no one that finishes a college career is totally unscathed physically. There's usually something, right? Whether it's the CTE from getting hit, or I got bad knees, or like when I talked to my son Jack, he just finished playing college football in December, and I'm like, what are you not gonna miss? He goes, I'm not gonna miss having over 300 to 330 pounds land on my shoulders when I'm catching cleans. Like I'm not gonna miss that one bit. Are you ever gonna clean weight again? Like if I had to, or someone paid me to, I can clean weight, but to sit there and catch 300 plus pounds of weight on your shoulders, I won't miss it one bit. But when you're training, what do you like to listen to?
Right now, it's kind of like it's based off the feel. Like I joke with our GAs all the time. It's like I don't have time to take pre-workout. Someone's gonna bother me during my lift if I ever get a chance. We had a board last year's days that Zach's trained, and I was just like,
Oh no,
everyone's trying to hold me accountable.
that bad? No.
I just like this is more important than doing that. And so I'm always really good. I was really good this last year, January through like probably October. And then you just get to the point where I did 30 miles over the course of a week, and I was like, I don't feel like lifting this week. Like you just get to the point, it's just not. I'm tired. I'm gonna put some effort, and that's just like once again, I should at least just warm up, just start something. But you get some of those things where, back's not feeling good, shoulders tight, neck stiff, something like that. Honestly, Big X the plug right now though is probably the thing that always gets played. I don't know what it is. I like him. He's got some good stuff. And then we just throw in like an Apple radio. Rap usually is my go-to, but we'll throw in some country and some or some hip hop, pop, whatever it is. It's a good change of pace though. Conditioning though, I'm gonna probably want some upbeat stuff. When we're lifting or something like that, I'm not trying to max out right now, so it can be whatever it is. I always make fun of our athletes and some of our GAs. Like, you need music to work hard. Like, how mentally weak are you? And then I'm over here not working out. So it's funny, but no, I mean, I've learned that. Like when I really get in a phase though, like I'm gonna need a little music, to give me a little juice.
Gotcha.
And I think that's part of it. But Big X right now is the go-to.
Attaboy. Bucket list adventure, you and your wife, no kids, no one else, and you can't have gone there yet.
New Zealand, 14-day trip. I would probably like to do a little hunting while I'm over there.
Okay.
But also, I mean, the views in New Zealand are gorgeous. The whole entire like place, from everyone I've talked to that's lived there for durations of time or visited, has said it's the place to go. So
Beautiful.
That's one of ours.
One thing I would do if I went there is I gotta make sure I time it so I could see the All Blacks play.
Yes.
Yeah, listen to the hockey. I saw them play in Chicago and experienced that whole deal. There was 2 test matches that day, and they were one of the teams, so that was awesome. But that'd be amazing there. Favorite sports movie? And there's so many good ones.
Yeah, there are like that's the hard thing for me. Is like what time of the year are we in? Is always like one of those things where I'm like, man, this is really what I want to get in to watching. But no, for me, one of the biggest, The Last Dance we talked about, right? Being really good, and then Friday Night Lights from a football standpoint, that or Remember the Titans are probably my top 2. I feel like Friday Night Lights, I just really like understand like kind of that style, like that's kind of how high school was for us.
Got it.
And so for me, it's pretty nostalgic. But do you remember the program?
I always watched that. I was going to say right before college football starts, and I saw it in the theater before they cut the scenes out where the people died, Do you know what I'm talking about?
Uh-uh.
So there's this, the quarterback is always taking risks.
Yes.
Joe Kane.
Yep.
Early on, the movie starts and they're at a bar and he has a couple of tequilas to start off. He's in Sports Illustrated. Once they leave the bar, the next scene is they run out into the road and they lay down on their backs on the double yellow lines so that the cars drive by. They're not supposed to hit them, but they could. Well, they left that in the movie for a few weeks, and then kids were doing that out in real life, and they got ran over.
Oh no.
So then they yanked that from the movie.
I've never seen that. But that scene, like that movie.
Starting defense placed at the table,
Oh
head through
man.
the window.
If that doesn't get you jacked up on a Thursday night before a Friday night football for high
Right.
school, like I don't know what's gonna do it.
And so being from Cleveland, this is not a big win movie, but I love Major League. It's hysterical, right? But favorite sport to watch.
It's gonna be time of the year for me for that one. I love playoff sports. I can watch them. Cubs were going into a good postseason run this last year, so it was fun to kind of like pay attention to them. Football's going also in October. You're in the thick of it for the most part. Pros going as well as college. So for me, like that's big. UFC, I'm pretty big into UFC when I'm able to get it on the TV. I hate paying for pay-per-view, but if it's good enough card, I'll do that. Now they're on Paramount Plus, so that'd be nice. But it doesn't matter. Like I can pretty much get into it, whatever it is.
Favorite athlete could be alive, could be dead, doesn't matter.
I like King Griffey.
Yeah.
I helped coach his son at Arizona,
Okay.
and two stories. LT, LaDainian Tomlinson's my favorite. When I was at TCU, they had the LT camp. I was with like 10 yards of him. Couldn't say hey. I didn't want to bother him. That would have been a moment, though. We're standing in line on senior day, and King Griffey Jr. is 5 feet from me during senior day with his son, Trey. And I just couldn't bother him. So probably my two favorite, of all time athletes, I just couldn't say hey to them. And
Man.
I didn't want to bother them in person. You know what I mean?
No.
I
You gotta say
couldn't
it.
do it. I couldn't do it.
All right.
I felt it was disrespectful in the moment. So,
All right. Favorite book.
a Savage Son, Terminal List.
So the Terminalist, that's a TV show, right?
It turned into a TV show. So Jack Carr, yeah. So the first one, it's Chris Pratt is the lead character,
Right.
but the book itself follows an ex-Navy SEAL, James Reese. Anyways, long story short, in the third book, it's very similar to The Most Dangerous Game. Have you ever read that back in the day?
I watched the movie. Is that where they're hunting people?
Yep. So that was like one of my favorite excerpts growing up that we used to read in high school. It was I want to say freshman year. I had a really hard English teacher in first period, and everyone's like, "Good luck taking that." Mr. Seck is his name, and he was difficult. But so that book kind of is nostalgic. I remember like grabbing that like midday, like starting to read it again, and I was like, this is wild. So yeah, if I highly recommend that book series. I'm on book 5. I'm going on to book 6 now. So
All right. How about a superhero or villain?
Batman.
And maybe your hero could be this. You could be Reese. That'd be fun.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. The book
then-
is anyways.
Villain.
Joker. So
He's
I
got-
I like the DC side of things, but yeah, Batman and Joker. It's pretty cool just how they interact with each other and they try to one up each other all the time, and they're each other's worst enemy.
Yeah. So you're not talking about whether it has to be the Heath Ledger version or not.
I mean, and I think I'm gonna go back and do this is like go like to the first Batman comic,
Yeah.
work my way back and then work forward. There's so much into that it's interesting. Just like the history of that stuff
Yeah.
is fascinating. But yeah, Joker like is sadistic individual, right? But so smart and savvy with everything he does.
Love it. Favorite lift.
I don't really lift, but squat probably most likely.
You got a quote for us or not so much?
Not so much. Motivation and quotes for me, they come and go. It's like a fart in the wind sometimes.
Depends what it means to you, and then depending on what season of your life you're in. Right?
Yeah, there's
Or-
two
or-
that I always come back to, but go ahead.
But even during the day, maybe it's not a quote. Like, sometimes when I'm really dialed in with my habits, I'll get up in the morning and I'll say, I'll just have a mantra for the day. And it might be just like, 30-minute focus, 30-minute focus. So I'm going to try to work for 30 minutes before I get distracted for a 5-minute break or whatever. So sometimes it's not even a quote. It's just a short little directive that I try to live that day, maybe.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I just come back to control the two things you can control, which is your attitude and your effort. And the other one is like you asked for this. So if you're feeling pissy about a situation you're in and you wanted to be in it, and there's something to learn in everyone, and some of that is just self-reliance, and the other part is like find out you hate it and just never do it again. But that's the challenge of life, right? Trying to find new things that you find enjoyment in, or the mundane that's necessary for you to just continue to be successful.
Got it. Got it. Where can we find you?
I'm on social media. Instagram is a big one. Coach Zach Rockford, or Coach Rockford 22. I have an X account, but I don't. I just get on there to pay attention to what else is going on. But those are probably the two biggest ones, for the most part. People feel free to reach out. I try to get back to people as early as I can.
Gotcha. Beautiful. Well, Zach, hang on here after we're done, but I want to go over a couple things. But man, really appreciate you coming on. Glad that Mark was able to connect us and just enjoyed our time. Okay, what I had expected. So I appreciate you having you on today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome for sure. For those that want to continue reaching out to us, info@athlete-builder.com, and message me also about the AEA Institute for the mindset training or just mental health training and what we're doing there and working and collaborating with that group to move the needle. Again, Zach, grateful for having you on, and until next time, everybody, see ya.